first question came from an anonymous. Would you advise most students to start a business? Why or why not?
Well, that's a great question. And that's not a yes or no answer. That's up to that person. You have to have the entrepreneurial spirit. You have to be willing to do whatever's necessary and not give up, because it's not going to be easy. If you want easy, get a job someplace, okay? But if you're an entrepreneur, sometimes that doesn't work for you. You've got this fire inside of you that you want to do your own thing and you want to make something out of yourself. So it goes back to that individual, is where they're coming from.
What are some more of those entrepreneurial assets that you think should be fostered to create a successful entrepreneur who would be starting a business?
I think it's pretty basic. I think you have to have strong work ethic. You have to have strong savings ethic. I think those are the two biggest things. And to describe that a little bit, work ethic means you're not talking 40 hours a week. You're talking 80, 100 hours a week, whatever it takes. And you're not going to wake up one day and be rich. It doesn't happen that way. You're going to succeed first while you're struggling. Okay? First you succeed, then you make money. But it takes you a long time to learn to succeed. So you've got to have that stick-to-itiveness. You've got to really have strong work ethic. You can't quit. You can't give up. You're going to have friends doing a lot better than you are because they've got good paying jobs, but you're taking steps in the right direction. Okay?
This comes from Melina. She says, "Hi, Mr. P. What advice would you give to a current team member at Niagara on navigating a fast-paced environment?"
Niagara does have a fast-paced environment, and it's the same advice. Just do the best you possibly can do. And that's one of the things that a lot of Niagara team members have in common. They're really motivated and hardworking people. And they want to make something out of their life. They want to have a career. They want to do something. And they're willing to work hard enough to make it happen. So the best advice is give it your best shot. Give it all you got. And when you do, the proof of the pudding is in the eating, right? The results will take care of themselves.
Thank you. What in a saturated market, bottled water, obviously there's lots of people doing bottled water. From the start, what made you stand out? What really helped you grow? You did speak to that a little bit, but I mean, from then till now, in a saturated market, what really helped you to keep a leg up and have a growing, productive business?
Well, the word saturated market is kind of an interesting word. I suppose all markets are saturated on any given day, or else they would be a different size. And then if they were a different size, they'd still be saturated. What separates you is your ability to change the market, to cause that market to grow, to figure out a way to grow the market. Okay, so that doesn't happen in 10 seconds of thinking about it. It happens over years of working your best, thinking of how to improve things, thinking how to reduce costs, not just thinking about it, but actually getting the job done, reducing costs, creating value, giving people more reasons to buy your product. In our case, it was bottled water, but whatever the product, you've got to create value, and you got to have a way to separate yourself from the other guys with value and with quality, with service, all the things that people are interested in. And what makes the market grow is when all those things align. When you have affordability with quality, people are going to buy it, whatever it is. I hope that
Very
answers.
good. Did the business change the way you thought it would over time, or did you look back and see a totally different experience than you were anticipating?
Well, the business has been constantly evolving. When I started, the first thing I did was deliver water to stores in gallon bottles. And then the second thing I did was deliver half-gallon bottles to stores. Then the third thing was 5-gallon to home, and all of these were glass bottles. And then that evolved into plastic bottles. And that ended up evolving into what we call the grocery package, basically the half-liter bottles. And that evolved from higher prices to continually lowering prices to where it got to be very affordable and encourage people to buy it, to where now it's the lowest cost way to get water is, like they mentioned, Costco and Walmart. You can buy our products there under their names for way less than 10 cents a bottle. You know, we're talking like 7, 8 cents a bottle you can buy water for. And that's so ridiculously low priced. Of course, people are going to buy it. It's handy. It's a good product. It's better than any other beverage to drink, and it costs less. It's the best beverage at the lowest price when you talk about what's good for your body.
What do you, in that mindset, what do you think differentiates water companies? You've spoken to some things like obviously sustainability and those aspects, but from a product point, what is kind of your thought on what really differentiates?
Well, you can break a product into two different things: the actual liquid in the bottle, okay, and then you can look at everything else around it: the bottle, the cap, the package, the service, the freight, the value proposition, the overall quality, ease of use for the customer. And we've kind of blazed the trail in all those areas. We're the ones that invented the lightweight bottle. We invented the lightweight cap. We're the ones that took corrugated out of the packaging. Water used to come in cardboard boxes. Now there's no box. It went from a cardboard box to a tray to a pad to just the film only. And that keeps on reducing the cost and keeps on improving the eco-friendliness. And then we went from a cap that took 3 or 4 turns to open the bottle to a cap that opens like this, just like that, and it's open. And 120 degrees, it's open. And those are all our inventions. And it just makes it easier for the customers to use it and keeps on reducing the cost. So it's affordability, convenience, quality, eco-friendliness. Keep on pushing the bars in all those areas.
Some new questions here. We have one. What was a memorable failure and what was the lesson you learned from it?
Oh boy. I had many memorable failures. I say it this way: I wasn't smart enough to give up. Almost all businesses fail, and they don't fail because the business concept's bad. They fail because they're not willing to work enough to make it succeed, because it's a huge amount of work. Well, one example: when we were the very first day that I had a truck, that was my truck. I bought a truck, like the first water company I went with, they had a deal. You could have either used their truck and earned 20% commission on the sales, or you could have bought your own truck and earned 30%. Well, that was 50% more, so it made sense to buy your own truck, so I did. So I bought a used truck. Well, when I got to my first customer, the transmission wouldn't shift. That's a pretty good failure. I couldn't get to the first customer, so I burned up the transmission because I didn't know that you had to check to see that there was oil inside of the transmission. So I melted the gears together. So cost me half the price of the truck to fix that. And here, I'm not making any money yet. It's just spending. And then a couple of days later, while I was delivering water, after it was all fixed, guy comes beeping the horn and says, "Hey, your wheel's falling off of your truck." And it was. And I didn't know about that type of stuff, the things you were supposed to make sure your lug nuts were tight. I didn't know. But the lug nuts are the nuts that hold the wheels on. And there were 6 of them on my left rear wheel, and 5 of them had snapped off. Nobody got hurt. But those type of things would make it easier for you to say, I don't think this is for me. Then a short time after, I bought 800 of these plastic reservoirs. They call them Oyas, for where you dump the bottle of water into them and it holds the water with a faucet on it. And they were all faulty. And they had a plastic smell, a terrible plastic smell. And I paid $1.50 for them. That means $1,200. I have to back up and say, I started my business with $6,000. Okay, 1,200 of it went for those plastic oils. So I set up a brand new customer. And she called me up before I even got home at the end of the day and said that she wanted to cancel the service because she didn't like the way it tasted. I went right back out to her home and asked her for a glass and tasted it, and I spit it out. It was terrible. And it was the oil was just made the water taste horrible. Okay? Well, you can't keep customers if your water's terrible. I took those Oyas back to the manufacturer and I said, smell that. And he took the Oya and went, smells fine. Yeah. They gave me 25 cents back for each one of them. So I gave him $1.50. He gave me back 25 cents times 800. That was about 25% or 20% of my total assets at that time, because I trusted him. And you got to know who you're going to trust. You can't not trust everybody. Some people are trustworthy, some are not.
Expound on that. Tell me a little bit about that. How as people starting out or just growing their businesses, what do you use as a marker for how to gauge good people and good relationships?
Well, most people are good people. Okay. What, 90%, 95%, 98% of the people that you're ever going to meet, they're really good people. Okay. That doesn't mean that you're going to be able to make a profit just because you're working with good people. You still have to offer a value. You have to give people something they want. You got to satisfy their need. And in our case, everybody drinks water. God made us to drink water, so that part's a no-brainer. But then the challenge was, how do you make it affordable? How do you make it taste good? How do you give good service? How do you have a package that the people will want to buy again and again? Okay, so it's yes, you're going to be dealing with good people, but don't take your eye off what's really the method to success, and that is giving to people what they want. I hope that answered that.
It does. Tell me a little bit more about, obviously you guys have a super forward thinking bottle and production facility, and so being forward thinking is obviously very important to you and your business. How did you decide on what resources to allocate and really how much emphasis to give to that what's next?
That's a great question. And you know what? It's been baby steps all along. And it's not like you have this great big vision one day and you say, hey, I've just invented sliced bread. It's not like that. It's like, for example, there were certain key points in the business. Like when we started selling water to stores, that when we were in our own business, we were selling gallon bottles. There were these gallon milk bottles, you know, the plastic, the cloudy milk bottles. You know what I'm talking about?
I do.
Yeah, well, we were buying those from the manufacturers that were selling bottles, and we were filling them, and we were doing fine. Okay, but every time there was like an earthquake or a flood, a big rainstorm or a war scare or something, the vendors could never supply us bottles. They always made the same excuse that their machine broke. Well, what that really meant was we were the small player and they were taking care of their big customers because there was a demand for bottles. Okay, so we made the decision that the next time, after that happened a few times, that the next time they did that, we were going to go buy a blow molder and make our own bottles. Well, we didn't know a thing about that. And that's a completely different business, right? Making bottles. But we figured if we were going to grow, we didn't have a choice. So it happened again with, I remember the exact date, it was January 17th. In 1994, there was this big earthquake in California, and they stopped giving us bottles again. And the 18th, I signed a deal with the blow mold manufacturer to sell us a gallon blow molder. Then that was necessity was the mother of invention there, right? We didn't have this great big epiphany as, oh boy, we just invented sliced bread. We had to do something if we wanted to keep on growing. So what we learned was that we could make a bottle for about half the price of what we were buying them for. So that made us even more competitive. We were able to reduce our costs to our customers even more, which increased our volume even more. And then we ended up buying more blow molders. The next year we bought another one, and the following year we bought another one. And as the business kept growing. So we also found out, it's all, again now, the little baby step, that was a big step, but then there were baby steps that happened off of that. Like now you're making your own bottles, now you got to make a decision as to how much gram weight do you want that bottle to weigh. So you think about that for a while and you say, well, the guys that we were buying bottles from had to make a bottle strong enough to transport it to us empty without getting all dented up. So if we're going to make the bottle and we're going to fill it right away, we don't have those transportation issues. So we could take a little bit of weight off of that bottle and we can save it even a little bit more money. So you see how that's a little baby step that follows? And those type of baby steps are what, over the years, there's so many of them that happen that help separate you from your competitors in a positive way.
There's so many more questions I want to ask. I thought that was super insightful. I wish we had the time. Sadly, I'm going to close with this question. I don't even get to ask several that are on here. But looking back, would you do it again, or would you have taken that job you referenced?
Well, I'm an entrepreneur by heart. I always wanted to work for myself. Okay. I had no clue that the company was going to get so huge. I mean, it's the largest company in the Western Hemisphere, but maybe in the world, we don't know. But it's just what happens when you keep on plugging away. Okay.
Andy, thank you for your authenticity. Thank you for your knowledge. I appreciate you very much. Thank you for taking the time with us.
You're welcome. Glad to have helped.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. That's our show.